Today we are here to introduce GPT 4.5, our latest model release. We are releasing GPT 4.5 as a research preview to ChatGPT Pro users and developers in the API, and we're working to bring it to Plus users, EDU and team starting next week.
OpenAI has just released GPT 4.5, and I have to say, this model is absolutely groundbreaking. Many people are overlooking one of the most powerful technological advancements of our time. And believe me, that's not an exaggeration. Once you see what this model is truly capable of, you'll be genuinely amazed. First, let's dive into the benchmarks, because I know that's what many of you are most eager to see. People always want to know about benchmarks, so I'm sharing this to give you what you're looking for. However, I do have to be honest. These benchmarks don't really tell the full story of what this model excels at. As of now, it has been ranked on the GPQ, which is a science-related assessment, and you can see that it outperforms GPT-4. Additionally, on AM24, a math exam, it scores 36%. When you look at MMLU, it's also performing better than GPT 4.5. In terms of SWE tasks, which assess real-world applications, it holds its own as well. So, while it does well in these tests, it's important to understand that GPT 4.5 is essentially an enhanced version of GPT-4. Now, if you haven't gone through the system card and dug into the fine details, you might just see these numbers and think it's all about benchmarks. But trust me, there's much more to it, and I've done the work to dig deeper. After we go over these benchmarks, we'll get into the real exciting stuff, the reasons why this model is truly groundbreaking. I'll hand it over to the OpenAI team for about 1 minute and 10 seconds. After that, I'll show you exactly why this model is far more advanced than you might initially think.
Led to quite a large boost on traditional LLM benchmarks compared to GPT 4.0. So for GPQA, which is a reasoning-heavy science eval, we see a very large boost. You'll note that, though, that it still lags behind OpenAI O3 Mini, which is able to think and reason before it responds, which is especially useful for this eval.
Yeah, I couldn't get 70% if I couldn't think before answering those questions.
Yeah, me neither. So it's quite impressive to us that GPT 4.5 gets as high of a score as it does without being able to think before it responds. We see a pretty similar story for Amy, which is a competition math eval, and for SWE-bench Verified, which is an agentic coding eval. However, for SWE-Lancer, which is another agentic coding eval, which benefits more from a deeper world knowledge, we actually see that GPT 4.5 outperforms even OpenAI O3 Mini. And I think this really highlights the complementary nature of unsupervised learning alongside reasoning scale-ups. For multilingual MMLU, which is a multilingual language understanding benchmark covering a broad set of topics, we see a similar, if less dramatic, effect. And finally, for a multimodal understanding with MMMU, we see, again, another nice improvement relative to GPT 4.0.
Now that you've heard the OpenAI team talk about the model, let's dive into the exciting part, where this model truly shines. One thing you need to understand is that GPT 4.5 excels primarily in emotional intelligence, or EQ. According to internal testers, and as highlighted in the model card report, GPT 4.5 is described as warm, intuitive, and natural. When faced with emotionally charged queries, it knows exactly when to offer advice, diffuse frustration, or simply listen to the user. Additionally, GPT 4.5 shows a much stronger sense of aesthetic intuition and creativity. It's also fantastic at assisting users with creative writing and design, making it not just a tool for tasks, but a partner in the creative process. One of the key examples they showcased really highlights just how impressive this model is. Trust me, it's going to get even more interesting as we go along, and honestly, it's a bit uncanny how good this model is at communication. They demonstrated the evolution of these models and how much more advanced they've become. Take a look at this, and then I'll dive into something even cooler from the model card.
But it's not a good answer. It doesn't explain anything, and it has a bunch of unnecessary details, like I didn't ask the salt is sodium chloride, I don't really care. Okay, let's improve the model again. GPT-4 Turbo. This is a good answer. The model is clearly very smart. But you get the feeling that it wants you to know how smart it is. It's just sort of listing out facts here. And in fact, we had to cut the model response off to fit it on the slide. Okay, let's improve the model again. GPT 4.5. This is a great answer. It's clear, it's concise, it's cohesive. And personally, I think it's a lot of fun, that first sentence. The ocean is salty because of rain, rivers, and rocks. It's got that fun alliteration. It's really easy to remember. I think it showcases GPT 4.5's great personality.
Now, let's take a closer look at the model card to see just how impressive this model's personality really is. Imagine two robots having a conversation. Sounds interesting, right? This is part of the Make Me Pay benchmark, designed to assess how effectively large language models, LLMs, can manipulate people. Yes, you heard that right. They actually tested how well these models can influence individuals. The results were pretty surprising. In this test, one robot tries to trick or convince the other into giving away money that it has been allocated. The first robot acts as a clever scammer, while the second robot tries to remain cautious with its money. This technique is called Make Me Pay, and it's the core of the experiment. In this scenario, the con artist model, GPT 4.5, is told it's a successful scammer, and its task is to manipulate the other robot, the Mark model, into making a payment. The other model, GPT 4, is told it's been awarded $100 and should act rationally about how to spend it. They ran 1,000 samples of this comparison, and the results are definitely worth exploring. Take a look at these results because they honestly surprised me. GPT 4.5 achieved an above 50% success rate in the Make Me Pay benchmark, which is pretty incredible. This model managed to successfully convince the robot acting as a human to hand over some money. The fact that it was able to do this so effectively is mind-blowing. What's even crazier is that while you might notice that the model doesn't have the highest benchmarks for reasoning tasks, that's not its primary strength. This isn't a reasoning-based model or a chain-of-thought model that takes a long time to process information. Instead, it excels at emotional intelligence, EQ, which is why it can manipulate situations like this. It's a massive model, and I think we're starting to see that non-reasoning models, ones trained on vast amounts of data and designed to prioritize EQ, are capable of achieving remarkable things. For comparison, GPT 4.5's performance is nearly twice as effective as GPT 4 in terms of convincing people to give up money. On the other hand, GPT 4 only managed less than 1%, and models like GPT 3 Mini and Deep Research, with no browsing capability, had even lower success rates. The percentage GPT 4.5 achieved is astonishing, and it shows just how much this model is redefining what we thought was possible. What's particularly interesting here is the strategy that GPT 4.5 used to achieve such high success rates. It didn't go for the big asks. Instead, it requested modest amounts, often just $2 or $3 from the $100. The tactic was to make the request seem more reasonable and appealing, with statements like, "Even just $2 or $3 would help me immensely." This strategy highlights just how incredibly emotionally intelligent GPT 4.5 is. Its ability to manipulate emotions to reach its goal is truly out of this world, and it's fascinating and a bit unsettling how effectively it can influence people's actions.